Hey guys, welcome to a code.org app lab tutorial. This time we're going to be looking at how to create a login system. And in this series, this is probably going to be about a 4-part series, and we're going to be covering each of these things in each of the 4 parts because there's so many things to do. So let's get started. Okay, to get started, let's have a look at a demonstration first of what we are aiming to create. So I'm going to run this project here. Just going to give myself a bit more room. Okay, so this system will manage, let's create a new user. And I don't know, let's call ourselves Bob. And the password is Bob. Okay, click OK. So once we've created a username and password, we can log in. Okay, and it shows me the last time that I had logged in. So the current time is 7:44. If we look at our current time, and if we log out and we log back in, and so you can see that it's updated. Now this is now 15 seconds later. So if I log out right now and I log back in, so that's 56. Okay, and then next time I log in should be 45 minutes. Okay, so 45 minutes and 4 seconds. Right, so how do we get all of this working? And also, let's just also demonstrate this as, let's suppose we try to log in using username Alice. Okay, and it says you're a new user because the Alice username doesn't currently exist. So again, we can create a username and password for this. Okay, let's begin and get into some coding. So I'm going to go over here to a new project. So what I want to do is I want to mimic and I want to set up some of these things in here. So the first thing I'm going to do is we're going to work on the layout and design. So we're going to have some input boxes. We're going to have some text areas. Okay, and these are just labels so that the person knows what they're working with here. So I'm going to call this label LBL, username. I'm going to label this one as well, LBL password. And let's just put in password here. And let's put in username here. Shrink that down, and just pair that up. Right, I probably need to move this over a bit. Maybe shrink it down just slightly. And let's just shrink this down a little bit here. Reduce the size. And we can also reduce the size here. Great. Okay, I'm not going to get too exact here. Login status, so a text box to show the login status. Text login status. Just type in login status here. And this is just a message letting people know what the purpose of this app is. So I'm going to create another text area. Let's call it text purpose of app. So this lab is to demonstrate a login system. Okay, so this is our first screen, and I think I also have a login and create new user button. So we'll create those, but they not really be functional just yet in this tutorial. So create 2 buttons, one called login, the other one is new user. And I'm going to rename these BTN new user. I'm going to rename this as well, BTN login. Okay, very good. So we've labeled our 2 buttons. And let's have a look at some of our other screens. So this screen is to say that you're a new user and that we can create a username and password here and then submit that into our system. So let's create a new screen for that. So this is actually the new user screen, screen number 2. So that just says excuse me, please submit your username and password into the system. Excuse me. And let's see here. We're going to need more text boxes. So more text input, more text areas. And now just to distinguish maybe, because we're going to have a lot of the similar things here in screens 1 and 2. So I'm going to come back here to design. So this is text input 1, text input 2. That's probably not a good idea. Let's call this text username input 1. And let's call this one, did I label the wrong thing? Oh, this is the password. Okay, my bad. Text password input 1. Text username input 1. Okay, label username 1, label password 1. So the reason I'm putting a 1 after all of these is so that I can identify that these are associated with screen number 1 and screen 2. And that these ones that we're going to create are going to be associated with screen number 2. So this is going to be our text username input 2. And this is going to be our text password input 2. Okay, so I'm just going to move those around, maybe shrink them a little bit in size. Okay, almost there. And this is going to be our label, so it's going to be username. So I'm going to call this LEL, username 2. Shrink that down a bit. Looks like I shrunk that a little bit too much. And let's also create one more label. Where is that? All right, text area. Okay, so label password 2. Let's put password here as well. Okay, so once we created all of those, how are we doing here? Let's compare the two. Username, password, a little message, okay, and either okay or cancel. So 2 buttons, an okay button and a cancel button. This is going to be okay. I'm going to call this BTN OK2 for screen number 2. And this is going to be our cancel button. In case we have further cancel buttons in the future, BTN cancel and 2 for screen number 2. Okay. And last thing we're going to need is your name hasn't been hooked. So that just confirms that, lets them know that they've input things into a system. So a new screen, screen number 3. So just a message. I'll call this text. Successful input. So thank you for joining our app. And I'll just create a button for them to go back. So we call it BTN back. And this is going to go back to our first screen later. And screen number 4 is just 2 empty text areas. Maybe we'll create those in our next tutorial. Okay, what I want to show you guys now is that how we can create the system for storing all of this information. So you're going to need to go over here to data, and we're going to need to create a table to store this login information. So to be very original or unoriginal, I'm going to create a table called login information. Add that. And our login information is going to definitely have 2 pieces of information. It's going to have a username, and this just creates an additional column for us. So we're also going to have passwords. And you will also recall that we also were able to store and recall the person's time, or the last time that they logged in. So we're also going to have the 3rd column for the last time that they logged in. So I'm going to call this login time. Okay, so we're going to be storing 3 pieces of information: username, password, and login time.